French Revolution. Yeah.
Ooh, it's going to be so much fun. I'm
so
excited. Welcome back.
I'm Liz.
I'm Jordan.
And here we are. So we took a break for the summer, and we were going to put out a video saying, hey, we're taking a break for the summer, and then we just took the break, and we never got to it. So
Sorry about that. Ghosting you guys for all summer. But we've been on quite an adventure. I've started college to become an accountant. And Liz has been working on a fantastic novel.
Yeah. So we had a good time. We recharged.
And we are ready to
take on the French Revolution. We are. I do just want to briefly say this. We are going to, in some future season, return to Paleolithic Africa and kind of basically redo Paleolithic and Neolithic Africa when we've had more time to do the research and really, now that we've kind of gotten into a swing of things, do it more justice.
Yeah, we did good. We feel like we did good, but there was a lot of things that we feel like we could do better. We took several different approaches, and we're gonna just approach it differently the next time we come back to it in a couple seasons from now.
Yeah. We are glad to be back, and this season we are bringing you the stories and the details surrounding the most important. I think it's not too much to say that the French Revolution is the most important revolution in Western history.
I could agree with that.
Yeah. We're going to talk a lot more about the whys, the what led up to it.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of documentaries. For those of you who want to dive in, you can type in the French Revolution into YouTube, and there is so much in there, and it's so good. And I highly suggest you just watch what's available. It's all really good stuff.
Right.
And we're just gonna add our voices to that mix. One thing we're gonna start with though is we realized on this journey that to understand how the French Revolution went down and why it went down that way, you really have to
go back almost 100 years.
200. It's about 200 years that you kind of have to go back and really understand what the French people were going through.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we're going to start. We'll be changing the format up a little bit this year too. We're going to do, for the most part, fewer episodes where it's just Jordan or I in the lead, although this episode, so you're doing the genealogy, and it's just so much. It's So
it's a grapevine.
I am gonna set the stage this week, and then next week she's gonna set the genetic stage, and then we're gonna move into this really amazing story. But we're gonna start here with the Wars of Religion.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. So the French Wars of Religion. Throughout the mid-1500s, France was ravaged by religious fanaticism, mercenary armies, and unending violence between the Catholics and the Protestants. So the French Revolution is said to begin in 1789. So we're all the way back here in the 1500s.
Yeah.
And what we've got are Catholics and Protestants and mercenary armies. These nobles can get these private armies together.
Right.
And send them after their enemies, so other noble houses.
Right,
On the way, these mercenary armies, there's a couple of things to know. First, they're working for money.
Mm-hmm.
Were they themselves Catholic or Protestant or particularly cared? Not the majority of them, no. They were in it for the money.
Right.
And so the nobles themselves were they were going deeply into debt.
Mm-hmm.
They're making their houses bankrupt to raise these armies and send them after their enemies. And then they can't pay these soldiers who are in it for the money.
Right.
So what do the soldiers do? The soldiers will then go through and they'll raise whole villages to the ground. They'll at the time
pretty much plunder.
Oh, absolutely. And the soldiers could come in and they'd be like, "Oh, we're staying in your house," and you had to let them stay in your house and eat your food. And then they'd get up in the morning and be like, "Oh, well, we didn't get paid, so we're also taking your sheep and your pig and your horse." And so they were leaving entire communities just
ravaged.
Really ravaged. On top of that, there's this outbreak of the Black Plague that has been popping up off and on since the 1400s. And
Yeah.
so a big part of the story, like, one thing to definitely understand throughout all of this that we're going to talk about today in the 15 and 1600s is that the Black Plague was just going round and around and around, and one of the ways it was going around and around was following these mercenary armies. And so they would go into the village, they'd leave, they'd take a bunch of shit with them, and one person would get sick, and the whole village would have to abandon, or sometimes the whole village would get sick and die.
Yeah, because how bad the plague ended up being.
Yeah.
2/3 of European population died from it?
I think it was a lot of, in some provinces, I know, particularly in Italy and parts of the south of France, entire provinces, like a third of the people gone. And we are talking hundreds of thousands, up to, in some outbreaks, up to 1 million people at a time.
Just dying.
And we think about, particularly here in the United States, where we've kind of had it be a political topic, but we think about borders and boundaries as being really hard lines. And so now when I say France and I say Italy, do understand we are talking about a time when Italy at that time was not a country as we think of it as a country today.
Right.
And France is in a process here. We're going to cover it's going to gain territory, it's going to lose territory. So these borders
are not solid the way we see them as because of constant conflict between monarchies, between royal families, noble houses, and it's really one big family feud in the long run.
Yeah. With the Habsburgs at the dead center.
Oh, I can't wait to get into the genetics of that lineage.
So from 1562 to 1598, France bled through 8 rounds of civil war.
Wow, 8 civil wars?
8 civil wars in, this looks like 36 years.
Holy
Over 36
wow.
years, 8 civil wars. Noble houses raising private armies, entire cities just turned into battlegrounds. Blood, disease, starvation. I actually covered that. Yep, here we go. Okay, so in this, there's a particular moment of note, and it's really bloody, and it sets the stage for a lot of what happens afterwards. In August of 1572, Henry of Navarre, he was House of the Bourbon, Henry of the House of Bourbon, King of Navarre, leader of a Protestant group known as the Huguenots.
Yep.
Was wed to Marguerite de Valois. Now, some of you may actually recognize the name Valois, and that's because it was a French.
She was the sister to the King of Valois, which was Henri III, who was murdered by a Catholic friar in 1589. I get into that next episode.
She was sister to Catholic King Charles IX.
Oh, Charles IX? I thought
daughter of Catherine de Medici.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, correction on that one.
Now, Charles IX, for those of you who watched the not historically particularly accurate, but a lot of fun drama show on Netflix, Reign, Reign, about Mary Queen of Scots and Francis II. Okay, so for context here, Francis II died, as it shows in the show, from a ear infection. And his brother, his younger brother, Charles IX, takes the throne. Yeah. His sister, Margaret de Valois, marries Henry Bourbon, King of Navarre. This is how the Bourbons wind up in power in France, ultimately. But their wedding was kind of a disaster.
Oh, it was a bad disaster. Because all the prominent Huguenots showed up.
Right. So everybody who's anybody in the Protestant world shows up for the leader of the Protestants getting married to a Catholic queen in Paris. And Paris is a very, very, very Catholic city. And so you got all these wealthy Huguenots walking around the city, kind of strutting their stuff, probably being a little bit bullyish.
Probably because they just got their king, who is a Protestant. He ended up converting to Catholicism because Paris is worth the mass.
Yeah.
To him.
Oh, yeah. So we will get there. But before that happens, just a couple of days after the wedding, this guy, hold on. I think I'm going to have to turn the page. Coligny? I want to say his name was Coligny. And I meant to look up all of these. Yeah, I was right. Admiral Gaspard de Coligny. I am certain I'm not pronouncing that right. I meant to look up these pronunciations.
I'm never going to pronounce anything right in this. French is so hard for me.
He was a leading military leader and statesman for the Huguenots. He was shot in the streets. And he survived. So he gets taken up to a hospice and everything. But Catherine de Medici, who, they call women in history get such a bad rap. Every now and again,
right.
they're kind of at least understood and maybe deserved. And Catherine de Medici, who they call the Serpent Queen, it might deserve. So she gets really scared that because this guy has gotten shot by Catholics, that there's going to be a Protestant retaliation. And so she decides, I'll get them before they get us.
Right.
And she orders the soldiers to massacre
30,000 Huguenots.
At least 30,000 Huguenots died in just a matter of weeks in Paris. They were just slaughtered.
30,000 was on the first night, from what I researched.
Let's
so
see here.
It was more than that by the end.
No. I've got it right here.
Oh.
On the night of St. Bartholomew's Day, royal guards and Catholic militias stormed through. So it did start one night.
Yeah.
Through Paris. Coligny was murdered in his bed. That's all that happens on St. Bartholomew's Day. His body was thrown from a window.
Oh, yeah. That happens a few times.
That does happen a few times. And angry mobs took to the streets. By dawn's light, thousands of protests were dead, and over the next weeks, the killings spread into provinces. Somewhere between 10,000 and 30,000 Huguenots were massacred.
Oh, okay.
I understand that it was nearly 10,000 that first night in Paris. It was a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so King Henry was only spared because, and I'm gonna make this point because it's really important. I feel like people blame religion for all kinds of things.
Right.
But this is not ultimately a battle about religion. This is a battle about money, power, and resources, as most religious wars actually are.
Right.
And,
absolutely.
And so Henry converts to Catholicism on the spot.
Mainly to become king.
Now later, because he doesn't become king of France right away, he converts to Catholicism to save his life right then, right?
Right.
So they let him go. And then he converts back to Protestantism, and then the French throne comes back into his grasp, and he converts back to Catholicism, and he says, okay, so it is somewhat apocryphal. He may not have actually said this. The chances are good he didn't say this.
Well,
but according to the legend, he said Paris is worth a mass.
Which means going to Catholic Mass.
Right. And so he converts back to Catholicism this final time in order to become Henri IV, King of France. Father to Louis XIII. And we're just about to get into Louis XIII.
That's going to be a great episode coming up too.
But that's Louis XIV. That's going to be the great episode. Louis XIII is kind of a putz. I do want to make one final point about Henry. Henry IV turned out to be a really good king.
He did.
For a very short amount of time. They sometimes call him Henri the Good.
Yeah. And he was actually a good king. He boosted the economy. He founded
tried to
colonies
fix the
in
taxes.
America.
tried to fix the tax system. He worked on France's finances. He most importantly signed a document called the Edicts of Nantes.
Yeah.
And the Edicts of Nantes basically provided some protections to Protestants. This is important. To some Protestants to worship
freely.
Freely-ish. But the Calvinists were left out because the Calvinists were considered pretty dangerous even by other Protestants. Like, there's multiple Civil War factions happening
here.
The
Lutherans are left out too at that point.
No, the Lutherans are the Protestants who are being included, but the Calvinists are being left out.
Okay.
But it is. There's actually stuff I'm skipping. There were other bodies thrown out of windows over other pieces of. There were so many details in just the section that one might label the religious wars of the 1500s. I'm just glossing the highlights for sure.
Just so we understand what's going on.
Because we're setting the stage for the French Revolution, right?
Yep.
But there are some good documentaries specifically about the religious wars in France and the Holy Roman Empire in the 15 and 1600s. Totally worth watching. Like, do it. It's confusing. I had to watch it more than once to even figure out what out of it to pick out.
Right.
But totally worth it. Totally worth it to understand what's really happening. Unfortunately, fanaticism doesn't go away with a good king. Not right away. So Henry IV gets murdered by a Catholic fanatic.
Yep.
And that happens in 1610. So we've gone from the 1500s, the late 1500s. Well, actually, kind of from the mid to late 1500s.
Yep.
Into 1610. Turn of the century. At the point that he's dead, he leaves behind a 9-year-old little boy.
Yep. And that's Louis the 13th, right?
Yes.
There's so many Louis, it is completely understandable to get them mixed up. Like, and once I get into the genetics of, like...
Oh, it gets so bad.
You'll understand
everybody's
why it's
Marie
so
and
easy.
Louis. There's, like, so many Maries and Louis.
And then once we get discussing their mental problems because of the genetic inbreeding, it gets even more confusing, because then you're like, wait, this Louis had this problem, this Louis had the exact same problems. Which Louis was which number?
Right.
And so, like,
But there is a good way to remember who comes after Henry, because Louis the 13th isn't such a notable king on his own. He was a little sickly, he was a little shy. He was known to be a devout Catholic, but he was a reserved dude. Like, he was, for better and worse. He was not
a little on the queer side, even.
I've
heard, as I was doing the genealogy research of why it took them 23 years to consummate their marriage and have offspring, is because he might have actually fancied men over women.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a lot of speculation from what I gathered while I was doing the genetic research.
Oh, that's an interesting speculation, too.
Yeah, and completely speculative.
Here's what we do know. He was super reserved, and so he... You know, on the one hand, that's good. Unlike some kings, he wasn't given to these flights of anger or passion. He's no Henry VIII.
Oh, right.
You know, on the other hand, like many of the other kings from this particular line, he was hesitant and indecisive.
Dawdling, I believe would be a good word.
A little bit, yeah. Doddering might be a good word. Now, that said, he did one really, really intelligent thing. It's like he was more aware than Louis the 16th, Louis Capet was, of how inadequate to the task of kingship he was. So he ceded all of his power into a name you all know very, very well, Cardinal Richelieu.
That man.
Yeah. We could... You know, if we were telling a different story this season, we could spend a season on Cardinal Richelieu all by himself. But this helps us get to... So, if you recognize that name, Cardinal Richelieu, it's from the Three Musketeers. where he is absolutely villainized.
I mean, he absolutely mismanaged the funds of France. He drove France into madness. Like, I mean, Richelieu wasn't actually a great guy anyways. He was honestly...
I'm gonna disagree with that assessment. Like, I really paid attention to, like, what he was... So, Richelieu is an interesting character because he's a Catholic cardinal, right? We all know that.
Right.
But he believed his duty was not to the Catholic Church, but as an advisor to France, and ergo his loyalty lay with the state. And everything he did, he believed he was doing for the glory and greatness of the state of France, to keep it safe on the world stage and keep it from being run over by the Spanish Habsburgs to his south and east and the Austrian Habsburg.
Oh, and they definitely wanted the Spanish. They wanted the French throne bad.
They did. So he's got both Spanish and Austrian Habsburgs kind of surrounding him. And his big concern at the time is, if these two form an alliance, if they stop fighting for like 10 minutes and they're like, oh shit, we're related and we're on the same side, France is done.
You're not wrong.
And so everything he seems to do is based around his believing that it was his God-given job to protect the throne and the state and the sovereignty of France at all costs.
Okay.
And he knew, as Louis XIII also knew, that Louis just was not the guy for this job. Like at all. So Richelieu, okay, so another war that in history is called the 30 Years' War. Again, lots of videos on YouTube about the 30 Years' War.
Mm-hmm.
There's just stacks and stacks of information. The 30 Years' War breaks out in the Holy Roman Empire, what is now Austria.
Yep.
And Richelieu makes the cunning assessment that the only way to stop the Habsburgs from gaining more and more ground is to join the war on the side of the Protestants that the Catholic Habsburgs are fighting. And so when he does this, he actually kind of rebalances the power. And they win-ish by margins, and France gains some territory. It gets a lot of money. I wouldn't say that he was, a fiscally responsible dude, but he wins in the end, and he leaves France more financially stable, better off than when he came into power, and it's really actually now getting some money from the colonies now, although almost all of France's colonial expeditions were, they did not have as much luck as either Spain or England in establishing and keeping stable colonies in the New World. But they were now starting to get very, very prized beaver fur out of North America.
Oh, so now they had a trade import.
So they did have a trade import, and they're now getting a good amount of money from Canada, what is now Canada.
Okay.
Much of which was, at the time, kind of the only French colony that was really established and doing stuff for them. There were other French colonies down in the Caribbean, but most of those weren't producing anything, and they kept getting taken over by the Spanish.
Right.
From time to time.
And eventually we'll get into the colonization of America in who knows how many seasons.
Yeah. I'm looking forward, but also we're going to have the same level of angry devastation when we get to the Caribbean. Yeah. And it's a history worth covering, but, it's a dark history.
It's going to be a choppy history.
So that's who Louis XIII is. He is a king reserved enough, but cunning enough to know he's going to hand it over to the guy who's got teeth. And Richelieu spends his entire career consolidating power into the throne of France. And then, when he's getting ready to die, he convinces Louis to give his position to a guy named Cardinal Mazarin.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And we're going to get to him in a minute. Cardinal Mazarin is an Italian, and so he's also seen as an outsider. He's also seen as a manipulator. Here's the big difference between Richelieu and Mazarin. Yeah. Richelieu rules ruthlessly with an iron fist. He is cunning, he is efficient, he's a hard man.
Yeah.
Mazarin is every bit as effective as Richelieu, and he does it through statesmanship, diplomacy. He's a smooth talker. He is silk to Richelieu's blade. Okay. Just as effective, but
he's more vocal instead of with a weapon.
And he even knows how to use words softly.
Yeah.
So he's not doing verbal fencing in his manipulations either. He's a different dude. Okay. Before we get to Mazarin, before we move on to the next Louis and the next Cardinal, I do want to talk about one other thing, because this usually gets brought up way too late in the French Revolution story, but I want to make it clear that it's been a thing all along. So we are going to have to talk about the three estates.
Oh, yeah.
As you guys may or may not be aware, at the time, France was broken into, I guess what we could see something like a caste system. And there's three estates. The first estate is made up of the clergy.
Yep.
Like today's mega churches, these guys basically don't pay any taxes. Like, not at all. So the church doesn't pay taxes. That's a thing that's clearly been going on for a long time. And this is important to understand when we're talking in the French Revolution later about why there came to be such an anti-religious sentiment.
Right.
Absolutely. The church has been getting away with pulling the strings and eating high on the hog.
And not paying their share.
And not paying any taxes at all. Or hardly any. They also owned 10% of the land.
Yeah.
So a lot of land of the land of France is caught up in these abbeys and these church grounds.
Right.
The second estate was comprised of the nobility. They also get to own a bunch of the land itself.
And they run most of the military.
All of it, because at the time too, like before Richelieu, there is no national military in France.
Right.
He kind of is the one that essentially. France as a nation that we think of it today, you can almost just credit to Cardinal Richelieu. He created the state in a way that before then it was a bunch of noble houses and they're all fighting and sometimes they get together in order to be like, we love the Church of Rome, or occasionally, even more occasionally, we're mad at the Church of Rome, and that's it. But but Richelieu really creates like the standing army and makes the state. So the second estate, now they are comprised of these nobility who, up until Richelieu, have enjoyed enormous privileges and power. Basically, the nobles altogether could kind of hold the king hostage.
Yeah.
Because the king would always need to rely on how many of those nobles' houses and armies he could gather, how many of them were going to side with him to get his thing, done. And so they could all side against him and be like, we're done with you. And lots of kings get deposed this way because the noble houses are like, you know what, we don't like this guy. And so and a lot of times it's good kings they did this to because they'd try reforms and they'd be like, we ain't like paying no taxes, so off with your head. And Richelieu knows this. He sees this as a problem. So one of the things he does while he's in power is he does claw a bunch of privileges away from the noble houses and consolidates them to the crown.
Okay. Giving the king more power.
More power. And he was ruthless. He killed who he needed to kill. Yeah. He destroyed what he needed to destroy. There was he did not reverse the Edicts of Nantes, but there was a Huguenot uprising in a city called La Rochelle.
Yeah.
And Richelieu stamps that all the way out. Just. And it's the last time the Huguenots had any power at all. After that, he stamped it out. Um, so he claws back a bunch of power also from the nobility, but the nobility still gets its hunting privileges, so it's allowed to hunt on these lands.
On their lands.
Well, and on each other's lands. I mean, so this is the beginning of the age of pageantry.
Oh yeah.
And you've got these noble families like going to these lengthy parties, and they're just kind of going from each other's houses, and so they have all this land that they have access to. Oh yeah, absolutely, come over, and my wife would love to have tea with your wife, and we can hunt on my lands because this is where the deer are. Oh, the deer have moved to your lands. Well, so does the party. And so these people, in a real way, have a run of France and can get food for themselves however they like.
Yeah.
That will be cooked by servants in their kitchen who have not themselves eaten meat in months.
Who knows how long.
Right. And that leaves literally everybody else. 97%, not just the peasant class. I think that's the impression we get too. But when I say 97%, I mean everybody else. So we're talking lawyers, merchants, doctors, yes, the peasant serfs who tell the story, but also shippers, sailors. We're talking about both skilled, both highly skilled and farm skilled, land skilled people. So everyone else. And these people are paying taxes that keep getting raised from time to time.
Of course.
On everything. Big tax on salt. You absolutely needed salt for a bunch of reasons. It keeps... Yep. And so the salt tax, like throughout this story, one of the things to keep in mind is like the Black Plague keeps just coming around and fucking with these people. Excuse my language. So do these taxes, and they were often taxes on individual products that everybody needed. And so I guess another thing to mention too while all this is going on is right in the middle of all that mess, as if all of this was not bad enough, bam, the little ice age.
Oh yeah, the climate
goes nuts. The little ice age sweeps through Europe. Crops are rotting on the vine and in the field. There's where they don't ripen at all. A couple of years.
The summers are wet and rainy.
Summers wet, cold, rainy. The winters were unbelievably bitter. And so it isn't just that taxes are really high. It's that there is a legitimate shortage on even the little bits of food and stuff that they would normally get. Yeah. The deer are getting skinny, and it's an all-around ecological disaster being made ever worse by war, by plague, and then this weather is just not doing them any favors. So 97% of the population of France belong to this third state, whose businesses, crops, peace, prosperity had been razed, robbed, and looted for literally centuries now. We're talking a little over 200 years these people suffer this.
Right.
And in every possible way, it is this third estate that carried all the burdens of the kingdom and reaped absolutely none of its business. So, as I mentioned, Richelieu actually brought the prosperity of France up by quite a bit.
Right.
All that money gets filtered to the crown. This is how Louis XIV has all this money to spend later.
Right.
But it all gets consolidated in the hands of the very, very, very few, and everyone else is just like really fighting. When I say fighting for loaves of bread, I mean literally fighting for loaves of bread. People get murdered all the time because of this.
I mean, we'll see when the women storm the palace later on in the French Revolution. It's over the rising cost of bread.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is literally centuries of starvation for these, for the peasant class for the what specifically is this class called?
The third estate. The third estate.
The third estate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And so the church at the very top, the minor nobility down in here, and everybody else.
Right.
And the everybody else separate. Just because of the order of my notes, we actually covered that already.
Yay.
Alrighty. I do want to say a couple of more positive things about Richelieu, because in the Three Musketeers, in every telling of the Three Musketeers,
Right.
this guy's nothing but a villain. The Three Musketeers, as cool the story is,
Yeah.
as great of a look as it kind of is into pre-revolutionary France, as a story, it is fiction. It is historical fiction. And Richelieu is 100% made the villain in that fiction.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a tendency for us to look at people in history and either make them heroes or villains instead of people. And don't get me wrong, in his own time, he was feared, he was despised. All the things that we say about him now were said about him
Way back when.
in his own time. Right? So I'm not trying to I don't want to glossy who he was. He was not a good guy, okay? He was not a good guy, but he's maybe not the pure villain that we make him out to be.
Yeah.
He was a patron of the arts. He founded the Académie Française in 1635 to refine and preserve the French language. And he died in 1642.
Okay.
And then in 1643, and I think he died late in 1642. In 1643,
Yeah.
Louis the 13th, who he had said, "Hey, you want to replace me with this guy, Cardinal Richelieu."
He died too, pretty much.
Yeah, in 1643, like Louis goes
Yeah.
right after him. He was like, "Nope, I can't
I can't do
live
this
without my
you."
security blanket."
Yeah.
No, that's not
Not
entirely.
true.
That's
but
not entirely.
I mean, it looks like that.
So, Louis the 13th had married Anne of Austria. Now, Anne of Austria is a Habsburg.
Yes,
She's
she
a
is.
Spanish Habsburg. And as you mentioned, for more than 20 years, they didn't have any kids at all.
Anne of Austria would be a Holy Roman Emperor Habsburg, not a Spanish. Austria was
Nope.
the Holy Roman Emperor.
Yep, but she is called Anne of Austria, and I looked it up 4 times.
What?
I don't.
How does that?
I don't know, but she is actually
This family tree, I swear to God, it's divine.
right. This is why he left behind his Spanish queen Anne of Austria and their long-awaited miracle child Louis Dieudonné de Bourbon. We are going to spend a couple of episodes on Louis the Miracle Child, aka the Sun King, Louis the 14th, builder of Versailles.
I mean, the legend himself.
And I'm
He is
going to
legend.
speak with some admiration, but let's be very, very clear about this whole line of people. They had sad lives. There is, I think, and particularly in the United States, in any century, particularly right now, when the general mood is an eat the rich sort of mood. Yet again, that's where we're at.
Yep.
But again, so there's this natural tendency, I think, for people from our demographic perspective to villainize these, particularly, and he's an absolute monarch. Louis
He
XIV is an absolutism.
He ends up throwing out the Cardinal Richelieu?
No, Mazarin?
Mazarin, yeah. I was combining a couple ones on that one.
Yeah,
Mazarin.
But we're going to talk about his childhood a little bit
Yeah.
in a more than one episode, including this one.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to know that he also was sick as a result of inbreeding, pretty much from day one.
Yeah.
And he was raised in his own kind of terror.
It really was.
And he was also raised to be a performance.
And infallible, too. Like, there is no wrong he could do in the eyes of his family and court.
Right. Now, he gets very well educated. So Mazarin educates Louis in diplomacy and statecraft and the art of performance.
Mm-hmm.
The court that this young man grows up in after the Fronde, and I am going to cover the Fronde here in just a second, but after the Fronde, the court that this little boy grows up in has people handing him his silverware, standing in line waiting to dress him, waiting for the privilege to dress him. He is told he is a god
from day one.
From day one. He is treated as a god from his earliest inception. So he grows up believing he is a god, and furthermore, believing that his glory is the glory of the kingdom and is glory to God.
I believe it said that he said all light of France shines from him.
Yeah, and it is not. This would be such utter hubris in anyone else.
Yeah.
And in Louis, because of this very bizarre way he was raised, it is less hubris and more a fact of life as far as his own perspective, as far as he can see. And so this is, or at least early in his life. This does change at the end.
Right.
So he becomes king, technically, when he's a very little boy, and I don't know why.
I think he's like 9 when he becomes king.
No, that's when
5?
that's when his father became king. Was when he was 9.
4 years old.
Louis 5. I thought he was 5.
I have 4. Maybe he was 5.
Okay. So yeah, he was a little boy. And there were some laws. So because Queen Anne is a Spanish queen, she cannot take the throne. She has to be a regent.
Yep.
And so she entrusts Cardinal Mazarin to raise Louis to be a good king. And she dotes on him. She did ultimately have 2 children. Also, Philippe II. He becomes, I forget, he becomes a duke or something.
I don't remember exactly.
He's really important in some tellings of this story. He's not particularly important to our telling of this story, so we kind of gloss over him. So Anne dotes on Louis, her miracle child. Mazarin raises him to be the perfect statesman.
Right.
And in... Oh, right. And right away, as soon as it starts happening, the court erupts in whispers. So the rumor is... Oh, the gossip. And so much of what goes wrong in France starts with rumors flying around. Like, if there was a historical, like, oh, by the way, this is why rumor mongering and gossip mongering is literally labeled a sin in the Bible, and like why it's a bad thing to do. This is exactly why. Like everything that happens starts with rumors. So the rumor is that the Queen and Cardinal Mazarin are between the sheets. And
which is not true.
Well, there's no evidence.
But there is no evidence of it.
But they were very close. Like they clearly came to rely on each other.
Absolutely.
Did that closeness cross the line? No. Was it maybe closer than the court felt was appropriate? Oh, definitely.
I mean, he was a cardinal. He shouldn't have been hanky-pankying with anyone anyways.
Oh, that wasn't a thing back then.
Well, I know that, but...
That was so not a thing.
Yeah.
So these cardinals had whole bevies of women.
Right. I mean, the Pope had children at one point in this time period.
So these Parisian pamphlets start floating around. We're going to talk a lot, off and on, I think, throughout the series about how much propaganda had to do with this.
Oh, yeah.
And these Parisian pamphlets start floating around. They are called the Mazarinades. They accuse him of being lovers, marrying in secret, even fathering illegitimate children. No evidence of this has ever come. So to the people of France now, they've got a Spanish queen, an Italian cardinal, and they're like, you guys are bleeding us dry. Like, they now feel like all this hardship that the people are going through is a result of machinations from a Spanish queen and an Italian cardinal. And I mean, how else are they going to see it?
Right.
However, Mazarin did keep France steady. He carried on Richelieu's centralizing reforms. He steered France to victory in the final years of the 30 Years' War. He ended it with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, and France stood stronger than ever. However, at home, he was absolutely despised. He grew immensely wealthy, and in a fairly short amount of time. And then the next thing he's doing is he's parading all his Italian nieces through the French court.
Oh, yeah.
Arranging super advantageous marriages for them.
Yeah.
So he's, in a way, this is seen as him giving away French territory to Italian interests. And then in August, look, August is hot. People get hoppy in August, okay?
Right. Absolutely.
So, in August of 1648, the dam bursts. The Parliament of Paris, the kingdom's high court, refused to register some new taxes he wanted. He had been raising taxes this whole time. Like I said, this is going on the whole time. And the Parliament of Paris says, nope, we're not signing off on these. And crowds in Paris rose in support of the Parliament. So you get a public protest. They're like, that's right, we're not paying anymore. And the nobility joins in.
Oh.
Not because they're paying taxes. This isn't their fight. But they're like, ooh, uprising. And they hope to use this moment to claw back some of the power that Richelieu and Mazarin had been taking from them.
Yeah.
So they join on the side of the peasants, and they go to storm the palace, or at least Mazarin and Anne believe that they are going to storm the palace.
Yeah.
And so in the middle of the night, Anne and Mazarin and Louis and Philippe are... Yeah, they're bundled into a carriage and they flee. They go to Germain and Laia, which is about 20 kilometers west of Paris. And when Paris wakes up the next morning, the court is gone.
Right.
Off and on, Mazarin gets exiled out of France. Like, he keeps getting run out of France, and then like I said, he's a very charming, very powerful. So he keeps coming back.
Right.
But this experience of being loaded into the carriage, being jeered at by public crowds, being frightened.
Right.
You know, I believe at the point that this happens, he is 9. He's about 9 years old when this happens.
Yeah.
And it is terrifying to him, and it leaves a very indelible...
He never wants that fear to happen again.
Right. It forms his personality. And so, when Mazarin dies, which is, I think I forgot to write down the date.
Oops.
Oh, no, I didn't. I was just on the wrong page. So by the time Mazarin lays dying in 1661, Louis is 22 years old, and he does something kind of shocking.
He exiles his mama.
No.
I thought he did exile his mom.
I mean, he made room for her he let her go.
Yeah.
He didn't make her stick around in the court, but that's not what I was going to say. he announces he's not going to appoint a new cardinal.
Oh, that too, yeah.
He now has, at that point, absolute power of France, and he takes it absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was a shocking announcement to the court. He was supposed to, up until then, French monarchs had shared that power with certain ministers and so on and so forth. Not in Louis's court. In Louis's court, Louis, who at 15 years old had danced as Apollo the Sun King,
right,
becomes the Sun
King himself.
And so his life until this point had been this brilliant performance.
Pageantry.
A pageantry.
Yeah.
And now he's no longer really playing the role. He literally, I think in his mind, becomes the role.
Right.
And so that is actually where we're going to leave off. Louis the 14th. Right. Now, next episode, we're going to cover genetics, right?
Yeah, we're going to get into the genetics, the inbreeding. We're going to follow a little more in-depth of the lineage of the Bourbons and how they took over. And then at the end, I'll honorably mention where the current Bourbon dynasty is. They are still ruling, believe it or not, but not in France. And yeah, so I'm following the genetic trail next episode, and we'll probably pick up on a little bit of what were you gonna cover next episode too.
Oh, I'm gonna so I mentioned, propaganda is a big part of this story. I think we spent so much time going, well, what's the root of all this? What's the root of all this? And I came up, I mean, you could really pick it. It's a question without an answer. You can always pick an arbitrary spot. So the arbitrary spot I picked, but it really makes a difference to the story, is the Gutenberg printing press.
Yeah.
The press changed everything.
Yeah, when propaganda was able to be spread openly.
So as we talk about that, I know we just covered like 200 years of history, and I'm not sure
probably
how long. It's been a minute. But keep in mind that by the time we get to the French Revolution, this is that background.
Yep.
200 years of religious wars, Black Plague, terrible weather, actual starvation, rising taxes, and the French spending other people's money.
Amount of money.
Yeah, while it is the
dying.
children of the regular people that die every time.
Yeah. And with that being said, hit that like, subscribe, comment, you know what to do, show us that love, and
share us with your friends, live long and prosper. Welcome back.
Welcome back to season 2.